What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the 3 hard house basses that every producer needs to know. I got this drum loop, which I pulled out of my Ultimate Hard House sample pack. The link to that's at the top of the description. Definitely grab it if you haven't already, because I'm doing a 50% off Black Friday sale until tomorrow. You got like 24 more hours to grab it with the sale, so definitely grab that while it's available. I think it's important to have a drum loop when you're making bass. It kind of all goes together, so I'm using this one. Link is at the top of the description, and let's get started. So the first bass line that I think every hard house producer needs to know is the normal sort of pluck, but there's a few twists to it. So what we're going to do is we got operator here, and I'm going to get a saw wave. You could use any synth for this, but what we're going to do is just take the saw, and then we're going to get a low pass filter envelope. We're going to get rid of the key trigger. And we've got that. Now, there's a little bit more finesse to this, because there's this thing called phase, right? And when you're working with a synth, essentially the phase is where you are on that waveform, like the saw wave, right? Or the sine or whatever you're using. And you can actually get different bass sounds if you set the retrigger. This is why we use operator, which means basically it's going to be at the same phase every time, right? Versus if you turn it off. Here it's like a slightly different bass sound. So you can actually kind of work with this and then get a different sound. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a little chord progression here with our bass. We're going to just put it on the upbeats. Like that. Yeah, there we go. And we're also going to play with the note length a little bit. I think this is very important. Cool. Now let's do like third. And then we'll do 6th. Usually hard house is like a very fast chord progression, right? So we'll just keep it pushing here. And then we'll do that. It'll be a 2-bar progression. And then we can play with this phase and kind of find a little bit of a different sound within it. And you'll notice it sits a little different with the kick when you have the phase at different places. And you can also do a square wave for this. You see, with the square, you can really hear how it can have different amounts of bass at different phases as well. Cool. So that's the first hard house bass. The next one is going to be this sort of 808 style bass, which has a little bit of different grooves. So what we're going to do is we're going to get operator again, because I think the phase trigger is really good for this kind of bass as well. What we're going to do is we're going to take a square wave, and then we're going to bring a low pass filter down on it and get rid of the frequency key. So we basically want to start from about there, maybe a little bit more resonance. Yeah, like that. You can see very small amounts of movement on the frequency can really change the sound. We're also going to sidechain this. I think it's very important for this kind of bass. So what we're going to do, sidechain to the kick, and then we're going to turn on the EQ here, and we're going to use the high pass, because if you don't, check it out. See how it's like kind of just ducking the whole thing? And then if you bring this up, and now you're really just sidechaining to like the click on the kick, you get a much tighter sort of sidechain, right? So this can really help. Now, for this kind of bass, I think it's a very simple patch. Like all that stuff I walked you through is pretty simple, but it's going to be a little bit more complex on the notes, because there's going to be a bit more groove. It's not just do. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a progression. I'll use the same notes as we used on the other one, but you're going to jump across the octaves. I learned this bass from listening to Kedema, honestly. Yeah, let's make that a little bit longer. Like that. Then this one we're going to shorten, and we're going to put it down. Now you could either do like this. Yeah, let's do like that. You could either do like that, Or you could do like maybe one of these. Right, I think that sounds good. And then what you can do is once you have that 1-bar pattern, then you can go and move it up to your chords, right? And kind of actually have the progression. Right, and there you go. You have that bass line. So again, this one is really like kind of combining the notes and the patch. I think it's a very simple patch. And you can also work with the patch on this one a little bit. Like you could play with maybe a little bit of FM. This is a good bass when you have like a lot of mid-range in your track too. Because like this one, it sounds cool when it's all just the drums and the bass, but it can also get in the way if you got a lot of like chord stabs and leads. This one, it's going to sit really well underneath all that stuff. Okay, now the last bass that I think is really important for hard house is this sort of almost like watery, very much like a UK garage sort of bass that people are using. And this is another one where it's like really the patch combined with the notes. Now, you can make this one a few different ways. I'm going to show you how to do it with FM first. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to get 2 sine waves here inside of operator. I really don't think you need much more than 2. And you're going to basically start kind of dialing these in. You're going to bring the second one up an octave. And you just really don't want that much of it, just a little bit. And see how the bass kind of starts to go away as you turn that up? So you definitely want to make sure you get the right amount of it. And then you're going to detune this a little with the fine. Right, and then the more fine tune, the more detuned that it's going to be. You can also even low pass this a little. So you see how you're getting this almost like subterranean kind of movement here? If you really want to go in, you could even play a little bit with some of this, like shaping. But you want like a tiny bit, right? And we'll get rid of the frequency key, and then we gotta... Alright, so now that you have that sound, let's go ahead and copy the sidechain on. This is another one that's definitely got to be heavily sidechained. And then what you're going to do is you're going to create this kind of a pattern. It's going to be a little bit more space, I think, in it. And it's just going to be a bit deeper. And the other thing you need to do, actually, before we do this, last step, is we're going to go in here and we're going to hit glide. Probably bring it up a tiny bit. And then set the voices to 1. Right, so we're just getting this little glide. And now you're going to do like this kind of a pattern. It's going to be very much like an 8th note groove. And I'm going to put this one up a little bit higher. Right, like this kind of a thing. Notice how I've got a little bit of space at the end of all of the notes. Right, like we're just... for some reason, when it's kind of more like a stab like that, where it kind of stops and then you get the next note, even though it's a tiny bit of space. See how it kind of, you can play with that, and then you can have like one that does touch the other ones and it sounds cool. Now here we can either kind of copy that pattern, or we can do like maybe a bit more movement. Now, this is kind of a good starting point. So it's a pretty simple melody. This is going to be more of like a bass melody, right? We're doing, in the key of C minor, we're doing root, 5, 6, 4. And then another 5 right here. And so you can play with this a lot, right? Like you can do no low pass. You can put the second oscillator up higher. You could also play with having like these. Having it lower than the other one as well. Typically, even numbers on that coarse pitch tend to work a bit better. And the cool thing with this is we can actually even do this in different ways too. Like, I'm still going to use operator, but we're going to actually turn off the FM. And what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 oscillators where there's not going to be any FM happening. We're going to make them same attack and decay, sustain, release. We're going to switch them to square waves. And bring that second one up. Keep them at the same octave. Make this one a square wave. Right, this is like how a lot of people have made this kind of bass. Same thing where we're going to do the glide. And then we're going to just use the low pass filter. And then detune that the right amount. Right, this also works really well if you do a bandpass filter with this one. And you could even play with like triangle waves for this too, I think works very well. Even just letting the triangle waves be on their own. I really like the FM one personally, and I think with the FM one you can get a little bit more interesting with the sound design as well, but there's a lot of different ways to make that sort of a bass line. And yes, so that is it for this one, guys. That is the 3 hard house basses that every producer needs. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. Like I said in the beginning, grab this Ultimate Hard House where I got the drum loop from this video, and there's tons of basses and also, you know, different synths and stabs. Basically, everything you need to make a hard house is in that pack, so definitely grab it while we got the Black Friday sale for the next day. Thanks for the support, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.